ask what gives...
So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Richard Tice getting pieced up over his, quote, NHS reforms, which we know are not NHS reforms. It's most likely going to be cuts. Let's be honest now. When they talk about reforms, that's generally what they mean, especially because they don't really explain what they mean by reforms.
Can I ask what gives you the right to cut funding for the NHS for a man who's inherited millions from your grandfather? You have many companies.
Oh, trust fund baby, nice.
You're privately school educated. I have children who are diabetic, type 1, by the way, insulin dependent, dead pancreases.
The NHS probably saved the life of my eldest son.
He's going to do a David Cameron when David Cameron cried and said, I would never want to cut the NHS, it saved my son's life. And we know David Cameron cut it. You know, that's what they do. They say, the hospital say the NHS saved me. Why would I want to do anything like that? Which is complete nonsense. Like this kind of argument, this appeal to emotion, that's what they do, and say, how dare you accuse me of this when it's clear what they're trying to do, because we saw it under David Cameron. And if Richard Tice ever became Prime Minister of this country, heaven forbid, it would be the same.
About 5 or 6 months ago. So I too have benefited from the excellent frontline care. Everybody I speak to who works in the NHS, they all admit that the waste, the incompetence, the mismanagement...
Who have you spoken to at the NHS? Who have you spoken to? I'd genuinely be interested to know, because based on the tweets I see from people who work in the NHS, they don't complain about waste or anything like that. They're constantly complaining about the fact that they don't have the funding they need. The staff numbers are short. That's what they talk about. You know, they're talking about waste or incompetence. So who are you speaking to, big boy?
That is the point. So I'm saying we're not cutting the front line. What you've got to...
You did tell me that.
No, Nick, hear me out. I did not say you cut the front line. What you've got to cut is the unnecessary, wasteful back office spending. That is a big...
That's something I think David Cameron did with his NHS reforms. And then what you had is more doctors and more medical staff doing the admin work. That's all that is. You know, what do you think back office work is? It's basically administrative stuff that has to be done. So this whole argument makes no sense. And who are these people getting paid ridiculous sums of money? I would like to know.
Massive difference. And that's what happens in the world of business. You say, you've got to keep...
But no business can run like the NHS.
Well, let's look at the outcomes, shall we? Sadly, the NHS outcomes...
The NHS had I think it had the best outcomes before the Tories took over. I wonder what happened.
...are amongst the worst in the developed world.
In the NHS?
Of course I believe in the...
Do you use private healthcare?
Nick, I've just explained that my children, and I've also used the NHS, we've all benefited.
You know, in emergencies, yeah. You know, when you call 999, they're going to be like, do you want the private healthcare or the public healthcare? But day to day, brokers private, most likely.
From the NHS.
Do you use private health as well?
We use both.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
cool.
There you go.
But here's the point, that I think it's really, really essential that the NHS accepts that the outcomes are not good enough. And actually, the Labour Party also accept that. They recognise that we've got to use independent healthcare and other mechanisms in order to get the waiting list down. That's a key part of our policy.
So a budget...
Independent mechanisms. And when he gets asked about this, it gets ugly.
...of £180 billion broadly per annum. That would stay the same.
So I think the...
So you wouldn't look for 5%?
What you've got to do is you've got to have the efficiency cuts. You've got to...
What, a cut efficiency where? Where do you want it? Like, I know they pay ridiculous amounts for certain medications, which it really should be the opposite. The NHS should be able to get medication cheaper than most other places, because they have economies to scale. You know, they can buy in bulk. They are one buyer, and they buy for a lot of people. They should be able to get discounts. They should be paying less than other companies do for the same or similar medications. But this idea of efficiency cuts, where are you going to cut?
To say to people, we can't keep spending more and more money and getting worse and worse outcomes.
Would it stay at 180 billion?
Let's just look overall.
Right? Can you answer the question?
Yeah.
Finally, Nick Ferrari, you know, I think he's actually doing his job. He's done a lot better in certain interviews that I've seen, at least, you know, where he's saying, can you actually answer the question, or are you not going to answer, and things like that. And he's trying to pin him a bit. It's actually a lot better than what it normally is.
At 180 billion.
I think overall the number should stay the same, but what you've got to do is you've got...
And as the population increase, per capita is going to be lower, which is another problem.
To get the efficiency cuts, the demand is going up. We've got to use more independent healthcare as well, because...
Oh, there it is there. Like, he's not saying private healthcare, he's saying independent healthcare.
Otherwise...
What's private healthcare?
Independent healthcare, private healthcare.
What's independent healthcare? That's private healthcare, right?
Because non-NHS healthcare is independent. It's outside the NHS, whether it's private, whether it's charity.
Oh, I see. You want the charitable sector to...
No, because some of the non-NHS healthcare providers are actually charities.
Which is true, but they're still not part of the NHS. They're still, charities still do make money. They don't make profit, but you can still have high staffing costs and things like that. If you're the CEO of a charity, you can still pay yourself a ridiculous amount. So that whole argument doesn't make sense. I think Ferrari could have done a better job here, but at least, he's made Richard Tice look stupid, because Richard Tice went for the independent healthcare angle, and when he was pulled up on it, it's private healthcare. You take the mask of the Scooby-Doo villain, and it's the thing that we always knew what it was. So Tice looking very silly. I think that caller did a really good job as well. And Tice, trying to use the argument, the NHS saved my son's life and whatever. Because it was probably an emergency. But I reckon if he had the choice, he would go private. This man is incredibly wealthy. And, that's one of the reasons why guys like him run in politics. They want to stay like that. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Big up Richard Tice. Hopefully we see him in more interviews where he gets tortured like this. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.